I want to shift to now do a slightly deeper dive into a case study that was completed over the fall of 2020, working with the Madison Police and Fire Commission. The context is that under a racially charged situation, the former police chief very suddenly quit. And the Madison Police and Fire Commission, the PFC, announced they recognized that they needed to take a new approach and bring more of the community, and in particular, marginalized voices that typically are not part of the process, into the process this time around to lead the search for the new police chief. And as part of this new process, they decided to partner with our team and bring local voices into the process. So we worked with the Police and Fire Commission to host about a half dozen conversations that invited people in from around Madison. And it turned out, because we had already been operating in Madison, we actually had hundreds of people who had participated in more open-ended conversations where they could express hopes and concerns, many of which turned out to be about public safety and policing. So what we're able to do is actually look at the whole collection of conversations and tag portions of those conversations that were actually on topic, related to public safety and health and policing, and then actually emphasize and prioritize those portions of those audio recordings where individuals were sharing lived experience and they were the ones that were most directly, personally impacted by policing. And then we were able to just focus in on those parts of the data and actually cluster them according to themes. So I'd like to now ask you to take a couple of minutes and listen to a medley of some of the voices that come out of these different themes, and they are tagged in the video by theme.
It's hard to get away from how powerful, the institution and the badge and having a gun is, and how much that emboldens individuals.
Growing up, one of the first values and principles that I was taught was to never trust the police in any situation or circumstance. And then that was kind of proven to me around age 12 or 13 when I saw a family member be shot in the back 8 times.
Yo todavía tengo pavor, el pavor que tenía cuando no tenía la licencia, que cada vez que veo si eran como unos 10 patrullas ahí, a ver a quién iban a agarrar.
Yes, the boys are, but more so the men. And this is a shame, because if we say comply, don't make any sudden movement, keep your hands where they can see. If they say get down, that does not guarantee that they will live. But then what are we teaching our sons? We're also teaching them, but they don't feel this hurt and this pain. We're also teaching them to sit there and let them be treated less than.
Law enforcement, community relations, because we have had a lot of problems in this town of people policing communities that they don't know.
Right. School is a place that we should feel safe. And for Black children, for children of color, police do not at least I can speak for myself, do not make me feel safe.
That there's a lot of things going on that I think, the police can't do everything by themselves, and they also need to reach out and make those key partnerships.
They are police, and they police, that's what they do. And they're not counselors, they're not social workers, and so all of those factors are not even in the equation.
It's my philosophy that those who are closest to the problems are closest to the solutions, especially in the criminal justice system. We're experts.
And the police in this community and the communities across our country don't look at people who need support and people who need someone to guide them or just be there for them through their struggles. They see them as a problem. They're not a problem, they are people.
So the final step in this effort was to translate each of the themes into a suggested question. For example, a theme expressing fear in the context of police would reference these conversations and then translate that into a question that was actually aimed for the candidates that were competing for the position to become the next police chief of Madison. We packaged these analyses into a report that had a summary of by theme. All of the links within the summary actually go to specific audio clips so that the report actually is imbued with the speech of the voice of the community. And then we have the sort of target action that we're recommending, which are questions that may reveal something important from the candidates. In early December of 2020, the final 4 candidates were announced by the commission. And then in mid-December, a series of public interviews were broadcast in Madison, which heavily relied on the questions that came directly from analysis. So I'll play one final clip here where you hear one of the members of the police commission asking one of the questions that came from our analysis, and the first part of a response.
It seems that police fear some of the communities they work in, and communities fear the police in return. What fears have you observed in the communities you've policed in, and what strategies might you deploy to help heal the harms that cause these fears?
So I believe that fear is a result of not understanding.
So Shone Barnes was in fact sworn in January as the new police chief of Madison. And when we did a debrief with Jackie Bojes, who was one of the members of the Police and Fire Commission, and the commission was ultimately the decision maker in the hire, and we asked her about whether anything felt different using LVN as one of the inputs for the search. Here's what she had to say.
I think people can feel that somehow that voice was heard in a way that it usually is not heard in Madison.
And she went on to elaborate that in town halls, which they in fact held on multiple occasions for this search, what she called the usual suspects always show up and dominate the conversation. And what was different in this case was a kind of decentralized town hall emerged, where individuals who typically would not feel comfortable, who would not show up, who would not trust that they would be heard, joined an LVN conversation, or to their surprise had joined a public conversation and their voice actually was brought into the process. So to summarize, each of these questions that were put into a public interview are actually grounded in an entire collection of elements of speech. And because there is a interactive visualization that is available to the public, the exact context in which those elements of speech occurred are fully explorable. So you end up with a process which looks radically different than town halls and public processes in Madison today, that is more inclusive, where when you actually speak up, there's a durable voice record, and there's a transparent and explorable set of mechanisms for anyone in the community to understand where those voices go and how they enter into the decision-making process, which creates a kind of mutual visibility because you know your voice is there and you can see who can see it. And that all creates a kind of ratchet effect to increase the accountability of the entire process. We actually believe this kind of process is something that could be replicated in other municipalities, and also opens the door to imagining a new way to have communication flows from underheard communities to now the new police chief and leadership on an ongoing basis.